Welcome to another episode of our mini podcast, I Built a Company That Makes a Difference by B1. Here we talk to founders of sustainable businesses to get their takes on how and why they started their companies and the lessons that they've learned along the way. Today, my guest is Madlen Gubernick, the founder of the Butterfly Club, which is an online and in real life marketplace featuring dozens of small brands, all focused on environmental sustainability in their production. All of the products on the Butterfly Club are upcycled, handmade, naturally dyed, and or made in small batches by women, LGBTQ, and or POC-owned businesses. Maddie, what is not to love about the Butterfly Club? Seriously. Thank you for coming here and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I love talking about sustainability and small businesses and could do this all day long. So I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, then let's just plan on running this podcast for the rest of the day.
Sounds great.
Can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. I am a New York native. I grew up between Brooklyn and Manhattan, and I would say my sustainability journey didn't start until my late high school years, but it was definitely there. But it was very non-traditional in terms of how I came about fashion and social impact, and all the pieces just kind of slowly came together. But essentially, I'm just a New Yorker that grew up in such close proximity to so many things and so many issues that I believe were pretty formative in terms of my understanding of the world and things that I care about, that I'm kind of lucky that the world of social impact and sustainability kind of hit at the right time for me. That's how I like to see it, at least, in that I grew up being so passionate about so many things and having no idea what to do with pretty much any of it. And then the stars just kind of aligned, and it's been a wild journey, but somehow the Butterfly Club came out of all of that. So pretty proud and happy with all of the above.
Nice. So I don't get to talk to, and I don't actually meet a lot of New York natives. So you were born and raised in New York. Have you ever lived anywhere else?
No, I mean, other than I went to college in Boston, and I went to Northeastern University, which it had a few programs I liked, but the main reason I picked Northeastern was because it had the most study abroad opportunities. So while I've only ever lived in New York City, I've done a lot of study abroad and basically took off every chance I could get. So I've lived throughout Europe for various semesters, from Spain to Ireland to England. So I've seen a decent amount of Europe, but other than that, no, I'm New Yorker through and through. I'm raised by two New Yorkers as well. Grandparents come from New York, and some stints in other places. But for me, I'm as New York as it gets, I would like to say.
Wow, nice. And right now you're based in Brooklyn.
Yes, based in Brooklyn. And still I was in Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan last year, lived somewhere else in Brooklyn the year before that. So us New Yorkers tend to bop around quite a bit. But yeah, always New York.
Nice. All right. So talk to us about, well, I've got two lines of questions. One is about your own sustainability journey, how that came about. Was it a kind of something that gradually picked up steam, or was there a particular event when you were in high school, for example, that made you say, "Oh, hang on a second," and it might have been facilitated by the fact that you live in a city and you're, a really urban place. Not sure. And then the other line of questioning is about the origin story for the Butterfly Club.
Sure. And actually the two stories I think kind of run hand in hand.
Yeah, I
Again,
figured they
like you said,
might.
so at the time, but definitely now in retrospect, it's pretty clear for me to see that the journey was all one big mess at the same time. But yeah, basically in high school, I compare myself in that I'm a little bit different from a lot of the sustainability journeys that I hear, in that, and I mean this with nothing but respect, but I didn't grow up as like the tree hugging kid. I don't I growing up in the city, I didn't have a great relationship with nature. And so when it came to sustainability from an environmental perspective, that was definitely lost on me. I didn't have a great appreciation or connection to nature in the way that I feel a lot of some of like my sustainability heroes kind of do. I hear these stories and I'm like, oh, I don't really relate to that. I didn't see the ocean or the trees and go, I need to save this planet, which I admire, but that was not my journey at all. I am not a hiker, don't like the wood. Like that's just not me. So mine was kind of backwards in that in high school, I went to my middle school and high school was the same school. It was a very bizarre, unique experience, especially for a New Yorker. And the classes were extremely small, and we didn't get real grades, and not. It was just a unique experience. And part of that unique experience was that by senior year, my school had kind of decided that high school senior years get lost on people because you've already been placed in your college and you're just kind of waiting around. So your grades don't really matter. And my school decided um, to place us all in internship programs throughout the city. And mine was with an all natural skincare brand led by a husband and wife named SW Basics. I still work with them to this day. I would say that was the beginning of my sustainability career, in that we handmade all the products in their apartment in Brooklyn. So, like skin cleansers, moisturizers, things like that. And the premise was all products were made with 5 natural ingredients or less, which at the time, revolutionary. Nobody was doing this. Was 2013. So sustainability as a buzzword was kind of there, but for a real business to be like, no, we're going to send our products in glass and we're going to take the hit and we're going to lose money and our margins are going to be itsy bitsy, but this is the right thing for the planet and we're going to have to sacrifice that. From a business perspective, the sacrifices that they had to make, I experienced small business like firsthand. It was just the 3 of us or a few other people on the team. I think maybe the team had 5 people on a given day. I saw how hard it was, to pay for lunch and just do some really basic things. And I saw the compromises that they had to make from a sustainability perspective, but also the struggle of, yeah, starting a business is really hard. It's really, really hard. And I was obsessed. I fell in love with it. I wanted to do, not even with the skincare portion, but I just wanted to do all of it for the rest of my life. I was looking at these people going, how do I become them one day? Which at the time was crazy because they were really struggling. This was not, the Fortune 500 company where you're like, I'm going to be her one day. Like, this was a really strange thing to be obsessed with. And from there, I worked with a lot of entrepreneurs one-on-one from across a range of different industries and companies, none of which had anything to do with fashion, but all were entrepreneurial journeys. And it was just in my blood, and it was the only thing that got me excited. And somehow I ended up becoming one, but that was not the plan. But I'm so happy that it happened.
That is that is an amazing thing to see up close. That is a boot camp in entrepreneurship, but from a super young age. I mean, you must have been like 17,
Yep.
almost 18 when you were doing this. What an amazing thing to see up close. I mean, I know grown-up people who would like just to do a stint in it in a startup just to see exactly how does this work and what does it actually look like. And you got to have that experience as a teenager. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was really lucky. I do consider myself very lucky in some of the opportunities that just fell into my lap and just aligned at the right time, and just the amount of, and I felt really lucky in that I was able to work really closely with a lot of entrepreneurs that are just like very talented, smart people that take risks and really believe in what they do. And I don't, if you don't see that firsthand, I don't know how you just come up with that out of thin air. And that definitely lit a fire under me that is still going. So I'm really appreciative to all. I have a whole list of like entrepreneurs that I've been really, really, really grateful that they bothered wasting time on an intern that was probably making their lives more complicated. But yeah, I really enjoyed all of it.
Wow. And so from that moment on, I mean, you were going to be an entrepreneur. You were going to work for yourself and you were going to build a business. There was no other path, there was no other thing that you wanted to do. That's very
Nope.
cool.
Nope.
That's
Yep.
very
That was
cool. All right, then
yep.
let's pick up and talk about the Butterfly Club. What is the origin story? When did you launch? I know usually a lot of work and prep, a launch is just a date. Usually for the entrepreneurs that we talk to, it's like this was 10 years in the making, or I've been actively working on this for 3 years before I actually found, a store or whatever. It's not just the launch. So talk to us about when this became an idea, when it started to be a little bit more real, and then up until the time that you actually opened your doors.
Yeah, I would say, well, high school is when I started to kind of get the entrepreneur bug and I got a taste of that lifestyle. the social impact side didn't really hit until college, at which point I started learning about social entrepreneurship. And I realized that you could do good from a business perspective, and that business had the potential to make environmental, social, and just overall positive impact. That was new to me. Although in high school, obviously, as I mentioned, I got a taste for it. I was like, I want to have a business. I want to have a business, but I don't want to be a jerk. And I couldn't figure out the two, even though I had witnessed it.
Right.
I was still, I guess, in college, when it came to my business courses, they were so focused on the Fortune 500 and the financing and the accounting, and that didn't speak to me. And then once I started kind of dipping my toe into social entrepreneurship, that started to make sense. And while I didn't officially launch the Butterfly Club until I think I officially launched in 2018. Um, by the time I was graduating college in 2017, I was working on another project that now, in retrospect, again, was the Butterfly Club in the making, but was in a different form. But the seeds were definitely there. And I think there were definitely moments, again, that I can look back over, whether it's 6 months of time or a few years, where I was starting to kind of plant the seeds, and then I completely forgot about the garden and like went to go do something totally different, but the seeds were still kind of growing. I didn't realize it. And then I would find myself and I'd come back and I'd be like, oh no, I want to tend to this. I want this to grow. There is something here. And then the world would kind of knock me down and I'd be like, oh, now I should go make money. I should go do this. I should go do that. And then I would steer away. And I always just kind of found myself coming back to what ultimately is the core of the Butterfly Club, which, beyond a retail location or pop-ups or any of the kind of not nonsense, but the fluff that it now is in real form, at its core, it was always just about, how do I make people care about the things that they're buying? How do I make people realize that we all say we care, but then we buy junk that's really kind of goes against what we say our values are? So that I just kept finding myself coming back to, even when I got very distracted by real world problems. So by 2018, the official launch of the Butterfly Club at that point was a blog. And I've always really liked writing, and I've always really liked talking to people. So essentially, I started a blog called the Butterfly Club, where I would find small brands and small businesses, say, hi, can I talk to you? You have no idea who I am. I have no following, no credibility, but I would really love to interview you for this blog that I'm working on. Enough of them said yes. And I was building these relationships with slow fashion designers and brands who were all kind of walking me through things that they had to do to keep the planet in mind for their production. And then, as it kind of was, the blog was growing, within a few years, COVID hit, and the conversations kind of shifted. And they were all saying, well, now as a small brand, I can't reach my customers because, yeah, there's online, but we're not online yet. We rely on our markets and our pop-ups and our holiday fairs, and we can't do it. So flash forward to 2020, and enough brands were kind of reaching out to me at this point, going, hey, I know we interviewed and talked, and I remember you, and you're in New York. Any chance you can try and sell my stuff? Like, what's going on over there? COVID's crazy, but it's New York. Like, there's got to be something.
Oh,
Enough people.
wow.
And yeah, it was really strange. The conversations kept shifting towards, do you have any where I could sell my products? And I was like, I'm just interviewing you. What do you mean sell your products? Like, at the time I was working in retail. I knew a lot about retail management. I knew inventory tracking. I knew all of this. And I lost my job during COVID. I was getting unemployment checks, and I was like, I can sell this stuff for you. I can do this. Like, I know how to do this. So in the middle of COVID, I opened a holiday pop-up. I got, enough brands to sign up for 2
People
months with
sent
me.
you inventory, like sent to
Complete
your apartment, like post it to your
to my
apartment.
apartment. I was 24 at the time. And I said, here's my address in Bushwick, middle of nowhere. Send
Uh-huh.
me thousands of dollars worth of inventory. I had no following. I didn't even have an e-commerce website. I had a blog. I didn't have a shoppable website. But brands were so eager to get their product in front of people for the holiday season. And I was the only one that they could find that was willing to take the risk. And while I didn't have legitimacy in terms of the Butterfly Club didn't really exist, I had legitimacy as a human, in that I know retail, and not just retail. Like, I do know retail. I know sales. I know how to sell a product.
And you were mission aligned, which was probably like quite top of mind for them having spoken to you about that.
And I'm risky. I was like, it's COVID, everyone's wearing their masks. I will find a space. I will make it happen and I will make people wear their masks and I will make them wash their hands, but I will open my doors. When everyone else was closing their doors, I was like, no, I could do this. Let's go. Let's make it happen. 2 months turned into 2.5 years. That location just kept extending the lease with me because, it was COVID. They were happy anyone wanted to be there in the first place. And more brands came, and I never went back to my retail job.
When
And
you say locate, this is a storefront or this is a pop-up? This is a storefront.
this is a storefront. So this pop-up
Wow.
location, I said, hey, I want to do a holiday pop-up for 2 months. Can I pay you X amount? They're like, yeah, no one's here. Might as well. Good luck. You're crazy. What are you doing? By the end of the 2 months, they were like, oh, you kind of made the space look pretty. And like people have been showing up. Like, want to stay another month? Want to stay another month? And at this point, I'm kind of like, I don't want to go back to retail, but my unemployment checks are going to run out at some point. So I have to start making money at some. What am I doing? Like, how is this? This wasn't the plan. I thought I was going to have a cute little blog. And while I had the ambition of being something someday, that day was not today. Like, that was not what I was. I did not set out going to have a retail store of any permanence whatsoever. Within a few months, I was like, oh, this is actually happening. I should,
This is a thing.
I should make a business model and like reach out to mentors, like what's going on. And after 2.5 years of every month winging it, I kind of hit a breaking point where I was like, I need to sit down and map some of this stuff out because this was all a beautiful happy accident. But I have a lot of pieces I need to put together and I need some time to
Plus,
do
I mean,
so.
it was like you were a little bit up against it, and that, as you said, your unemployment checks are running at, you're 24, and you're like, wait, I need to, I still live in New York, right? Like, you still
Yeah,
live in New
things
York.
aren't cheap. Things are crazy. I don't know what's going on. And I'm looking around at all of my friends who, again, as obvious, I've always been the risk taker. Like when graduating college, everyone had their jobs lined up. And I was like, I'm gonna travel and bum it for a little bit. I can figure it out. And now I'm hitting 25 and everyone's getting bonuses and hitting these kind of marks in life. And I'm just not. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then everyone would be like, but you're running a business. And I'd be like, well, maybe it looks like that from the outside, but from the inside, I'm not seeing the money coming in. I'm not really seeing the path forward. And when you're in it, you're like, everyone else makes it look really cute and shiny. And that makes my heart feel good. But my brain is like, girl, what's the plan? Like, what's next? Like, we got to grow up someday. This is a very fun, like Peter Pan, like whimsical, just kind of I worked really hard, but yeah, it kind of fell in my lap and now we're making the magic continue. But I think the reality is the magic does run out eventually. I think that's kind of like a hard lesson I've had to learn as an entrepreneur. Like, I think if you work, you will. I do genuinely believe you will have enough little luck come your way, and that little luck will spark something that's already been developing. But then once that luck runs out, all you have is the hard work left. And somehow you have to summon the energy to be like, no, I'm going to keep the magic going myself. And I think after the 2.5 years, that spark kind of, it didn't fade, but I hit a point where I was like, I need to take a step back. I need to chill out and I need to really reevaluate. So this past holiday season, I left that location and I told all of my brands, guys, I'm going to figure it out, but I need to take a moment and really reevaluate.
Mhm.
And these last 6 to 8 months have been that. I've completely launched a new e-commerce marketplace, which is a fully functional e-commerce website, which I've always wanted once this started to develop, but never had the capacity to actually do. I've been building relationships with brands that I've always dreamed of building relationships with, but never had kind of the capacity to do so. Launching collaborations, hosting these events and workshops that have a little bit more meaning behind them. And I'm really excited to potentially reopen a new permanent location or potentially keep pivoting and learning all the things of having a business that's a little bit more nomadic and flexible. And I'm really excited about both and either opportunities. And I'm genuinely like, it's 50-50 which direction it's going to go. but it's been a very bizarre and lovely and difficult journey to say the least.
So that's an amazing journey, especially I'm thinking of all of the entrepreneurs that make up the majority of our audience listening right now. And I think everybody can relate to at some point uh, surviving month by month. You just happened to start that way.
Yep.
Like you did that from the beginning. Like, okay, this is a month. What will happen next month? No idea. Like every entrepreneur knows that at some point, like you've exhausted whether you're bootstrapping or like you've exhausted your initial investment money and you're like, OMG, I need to get funding now or whatever. You're trying to get to profitability, but you started that way. So you took time off to do a business plan and be like, all right, pause, every pause. I need to get in front of this in some way. So in the last 6 to 8 months, do you feel like, okay, so you're now fully e-commerce, which offers a lot of benefits that you just talked about. Do you feel like, no, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, which I was about to do. Give me some adjectives about how you're feeling about the business versus 10 months ago.
Um, 10 months ago, I can't even fit it into an adjective, but 10 months ago, I was really ready. In all honesty, I was like, I've done this before. I can do it again. Do I start over with something else? In all honesty, I was kind of like, I really care about this. I really think this could work, but the world is beating me up and I'm over
Mm,
it. And I am a
mhm,
believer as an entrepreneur. I think it's really important to, regardless of how spiritual you are, regardless of what you believe in the world, regardless of, you have to find the center in yourself and have some really, really hard talks with yourself and be like, yeah, I really love this, but do I need to put this aside? And am I better suited to try something else? 10 months ago, I was thinking, yeah, I was like, this has been crazy. This has been real. I need to take a step aside. And now I'm like, absolutely not. I'm holding on to this for dear life. I believe in this more than I ever have. I
mhm,
am so much more motivated and inspired and excited again. I'm feeling how I felt when I first opened the pop up and I was doing the blogs, when I had the time to really do what the parts of the business that I really enjoyed. And I've had enough time to kind of process my learnings
mhm,
from the parts that I did not enjoy so much. And
mhm,
I think I've had to be really kind of honest with myself about, like, I've had to say, I'm really proud of you, Maddie. You did a good job. You took the risks. But you know what? Here are some of your weaknesses. And here are
mhm,
some things that as a human being, you need to figure out before you take this leap of faith again. And I feel like these few months of like quote unquote healing have been so like recharging. I feel, like I said, I'm just excited and I feel like optimistic. 10 months ago, I felt pessimistic. I felt like it wasn't worth it. I felt like the world wasn't getting it. I felt like I was not getting it. I felt like the compromises I was having to make were not worth it on a personal level or on a business level. And I needed to do some serious realignment with my mission, the original kind of core purpose of why I'm doing all of this in the first place, because it's not all fun and shiny. And I've had to kind of reevaluate why I wanted to do this in the first place. And that
mhm.
was a rocky journey. But now, 6, 8, 10 months out, I didn't see this. I thought by now we would be on to something next. So I'm really, really pleasantly surprised that I'm back tending the garden. I'm right back where I've kind of always been. It was just a bit of a rocky road to get there, but that's how it goes.
So, um, founder and entrepreneur well-being, whatever that means, really, there's so many definitions about well-being, is such a hot topic right now. And it's really talked about finally. Like, I'm super happy to hear. I love hearing stories about entrepreneurs saying, no, like, this is what I did that I will never do to myself again. This is how I take steps to ensure that that doesn't happen because as entrepreneurs, different most of the time to working in a corporate when it's if you're a one, two, three, even five, or even 10-person business, you're absent. Like it's not an option to burn out and be so exhausted that you can't contribute. Like that's just not an option. But that's not how most of the Western world views work. So this conversation around, especially entrepreneur well-being and taking care of yourself and your mental health as well, and being able to retain things that you find that you're passionate about and retain that passion, or at least understand when it's waning a bit and what you need to do to get that back, because that's what obviously fuels you along. Entrepreneurship is such an intense, hard, just grinding journey. So for yourself, you mentioned a couple things. I mean, I promise I'll get onto the butterfly club in a second, but this is super interesting. And we get a lot of questions about this from the merchants that we are in touch with that are part of our community. You mentioned having a couple hard conversations with yourself, and you mentioned one is just, um, what am I doing? What am I doing well, and what do I do that I don't do well? Like, let's really identify those things. So that's one. What are some of the other hard conversations that you would suggest to entrepreneurs at some point, or when it feels like it's crashing down, that you or maybe even before it's coming crashing down, that you have with yourself? So that's one. And the other one is, what do you do now that you've learned over the past 10 months or maybe the past year to ensure that, this doesn't go away, or you can identify when it's time to pivot and when it's time to just like take a break?
Yeah, I think so many things. One, I think right now we're seeing hustle culture skyrocket, and the burnout is real, and putting people on a pedestal is real. And um especially when you're an entrepreneur in your 20s, I mean, any entrepreneur, you're making sacrifices, right? Because if you're in your 30s or 40s, you have a family and you're making sacrifices on that level. But everyone thinks it's really glamorous and cute and fun to run a business in New York City in your 20s. But on a really simple side, it's like I had to compromise relationships, romantic relationships, friendships. Say, I can't go party. I don't have the money. I can't buy $15 cocktails like the rest of you who have full-time jobs and who have the comfort of all of that. I can't take off for a week and go on a vacation because I can't afford to pay myself to be at the store, let alone pay someone else to work at the store. And when it's holiday season and everyone else is traveling about, I'm sitting right there, which, woe is me. That's an entrepreneur. But I think sometimes you forget that those are going to be the compromises you take off, or something as simple as I don't feel well, but I have to go run the store because it's a Saturday. And if the store isn't open on a Saturday, I don't make enough money to pay rent. And I can't afford to be closed for the day because I have a cold, which in the COVID landscape was extra crazy of like, well, I didn't test positive, but I'm not feeling good. Like the risks were just the tolerance that I had to build with myself that I didn't. In all honesty, I didn't at all. When I had the store, the pressure was so unreal. The pressure I put on myself was so insane that while at the time I thought I was doing the work, at the time I thought I was having the conversations with myself, I thought I was evaluating my decisions correctly, I thought I was level-headed. But now in retrospect, once again, I didn't stop for a second, and I was faking it until I made it. I was not being I wasn't really taking the time the way I do now. And so what I've done really well in the last few months that I will continue to do for as long as I possibly can, and what I would suggest to any entrepreneur, is turn off your phone, go on a walk, go somewhere so by yourself that there are no opinions of the world, whether it's opinions from people you trust or people on the internet whose opinions you don't trust, but for whatever reason you let impact your decisions. Go on a walk by yourself for as long as it takes until you just calm down, whether it's calm down emotionally, like whether you're like me and you're wired to like just get so emotional and wound up that you either start crying or screaming or whatever it is, but you need to just calm down. And I mean, I personally am a fan of putting pen to paper and just doing my pro con lists and really writing down what I'm feeling, what's making me feel that way. And I think you have to kind of actually be willing to walk away from it, and you have to be willing to lose it and say goodbye to it and say, yeah, this business could be a wrap. All that hard work could be quote unquote for nothing. And you really have to fully agree with that and mean it, and then try and do it, try and walk away, try and do something else. And if it's so cheesy, but if it's meant to be, it'll come back and you won't be able to run away from it. You really won't. And I know they say that for all phases of life, but that has just been so painfully true for me where I was like, okay, I'm sitting down, I'm going on my walks, I'm doing my journaling, like let's start fresh. And the butterfly club, literally the club, the brands, the customers, the followers, the friends were like, nope, girl, come back. And I had to say, well, does it make me happy? I don't know. I don't know. Does it make me happy? And I took time away. I came back and I went, I will only do this if it makes me happy. And now every day, the second a brand pisses me off or asks me the wrong question or something goes wrong, I'm willing to lose that relation. I'm willing to not work with you anymore. I'm willing to lose the bid on that space. I'm willing to not work with that brand. I'm willing for that customer not to come back. Like you have to just be willing because you have to believe in it well enough and you have to believe that your values are right enough that the right people are going to get it, and the people that don't, you do not have to worry about converting. I don't believe that. That's a very long-winded way of, if you take the time to develop your intuition, I think your intuition most of the time will kind of steer you as long as you calm down enough. And again, maybe that's just very much me, but for emotional hotheads as entrepreneurs, you have to slow down the chaos, stop listening to everyone that wants to give you advice and has opinions, but ultimately no one has any idea what your days are like. Even the people who think they get it, they don't get it. And you have to be willing to lose it all and then walk away from it and then see if it pulls you back or not. That's
I
been my
don't think
journey.
it's just you. I talk to a lot of female entrepreneurs in general, but a lot of female entrepreneurs. And that's one thing that I think that you touched on that's really important to acknowledge, which is a lot of female entrepreneurs talk about their gut feeling and their intuition. And when I ask them, what would you have done differently? It's often I would have listened to myself earlier. I just was having a hard time being confident in my own gut feeling.
Yep.
Um, and that's super, yeah. So it's not just you. I hear it again
That's
and
a no.
again that I knew roughly, like I knew what was gonna work, or I knew this was not gonna, I knew I shouldn't have partnered with that person, or this, I knew that space wasn't for me, and my gut was telling me, but I wasn't confident that my gut knew what it was talking about. I hear that a lot.
When you're not
Um,
confident that if you say no, something better will find its way, you'd be like,
yeah.
well, that brand really wants to work with me, so I should. And it's like, no, I knew the second that email came in, I should have run away. But because you're like, oh, I want them to do well. No, sometimes it's just not for you. That doesn't mean they won't do well with someone else. Just sometimes that partnership, that space, you have to be willing to lose it because you have to know that the right space is out there, the right brands are out there, the right customers are out there.
All right. I was kind of joking before when I said we just plan to be on this podcast all day, but it's turning into not a joke. So let me go back to the Butterfly Club. How did that name come about? I know it started as a blog, but how did that name come about?
The premise was that other than me just loving butterflies and thinking they're beautiful, and from like a graphic perspective, the potential when it came to logos and things definitely clicked, which is I think crucial to finding a good name. It has to be something that visually speaks to you also. But essentially, one, it had to be a club or a collective of some kind, in that the goal was to bring together the brands that I knew were out there, but were searching for a marketplace that wasn't considering them, and bridging them or connecting them with the consumers that wanted to shop sustainably but wanted cool stuff and didn't want to have to sacrifice their style or aesthetic for their values. So it needed to be something that was a word that spoke to that community, because it's not just about the brands, it's not just about the customers, it's really about bringing them all together, both online and in person. And Butterfly, the thought was, I try and search for brands who are kind of in their caterpillar phase. And through our platform, my hope is that I help them, turn into butterflies, and hope that they can, spread their wings and grow, and that having the community that I've kind of curated for them, having the lessons that I share with them, the resources that I share with them, and the physical marketplace, the experience of selling their product to people in New York. I consider it a launch pad. So I really try and find brands that are in that phase that just need a little support and a little, tough love and all the things to just kind of turn in to their butterfly selves.
I love that so much. That's exactly what we try to do at B1, which is we love working with micro and small enterprises that are just getting off. And it's like just it's such a slog to get that foothold at just that first, whether it's the first paying customer, the first 100 paying customers, the first distribution deal, whatever it is, just to get that first thing in there. This is exactly what we try to do with B1. Can you talk to our audience and tell them what kind of businesses you work with, what are their criterias, and then how they might be able to get in touch with you if they meet those criterias?
Sure, it's an answer that nobody likes. In that I think there are so many amazing marketplaces out there. If anything, I would say there are too many marketplaces out there. And they all have various criteria in terms of sustainability, and ours are there when we're looking for which products we're going to carry. From a sustainability perspective, we are looking for products that are handmade. So we carry anything from clothing to jewelry to home goods to gifts, accessories, all that fun stuff. But we the products can either be handmade by you or an artisan. They can be produced in small batches, which is kind of important to explain because I think the sustainability world doesn't always agree with this one. And I'm willing to take a hit for this one, but I actually believe in it really heavily, in that the materials or the fabric for the clothing, let's say, don't have to be quote unquote planet friendly. Because we believe that if you are working with a small family owned factory that is producing ethically for you, and running in such small batches, that the impact that's going to have on the planet is negligible compared to the brands that we really have to be angry at together, the big boys and girls that are pissing everyone off. And so we kind of actually really kind of hold on to that one tight because we really believe in keeping those family factories going. And we think that the trends are actually pushing in the wrong way, but that's a whole other conversation for another time. Within the kind of handmade bucket, we look for naturally dyed clothing. That's a space that we really love and is just, it's certainly not a requirement that all items are naturally dyed, but we do kind of find ourselves growing in that area. And we really love naturally dyed clothing and accessories. So on all of those metrics fit under how is the product being made. So that's how we look at how the product is being made, what it's being made out of. And we look for upcycled materials, recycled materials, all that fun stuff. The other bucket of sustainability is who's making it. So we want to make sure that we're working with brands that really live and breathe by what they're doing, which you can't prove on paper, which is why I say people are going to hate this answer. And that's an intuition thing. When I work with a brand over email or on a phone call, I need a brand that's really in it and isn't doing this as, for fun, which is lovely, but there are different markets for that. I need to work with brands who are really trying to scale and are really trying to reach new customers. So we look for brands that are owned and operated by women, LGBTQ plus, POC. We just believe in creating a space for as many people of all kinds that we can. And that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with working really hard. But we do. It's who's making the product, how is it made, and what's it made out of. But ultimately, it's also, we have to look at the product and go, can we sell this to our customers? And I've had to turn a lot of brands down that say, well, I fit your metrics. And I go, you absolutely do. You are doing nothing wrong. It's just not a fit for my customer. And I'm actually saving you time and money because you're better suited elsewhere. Don't bother sending me the product. You're going to lose the shipping costs. You're not going to make money, which is a tough kind of pill to swallow. But I would also say to brands that if you're not accepted into a given market or store, whatever it is, it's a blessing in disguise. Buyers know what works for them and their customer, and they're saving you the time and money. So find the ones that are the right fit for you and who have the same customer, and don't take it personally. It's never personal. And love your product enough to trust that someone else is going to love it too, even if it's not a fit for me or for someone else.
That is a great piece of advice. That is a really good piece of advice. Who would you say is your average customer?
So what makes us, I think, pretty different from some of the other marketplaces is that our customer is very much the Gen Z millennial shopper who wants to buy things with ease, but wants to buy things that are fun and different, but in that middle ground of you're not going to buy a piece with us that you wear once. This is not, luxury clothing that it's a ball gown that is hand beaded and so beautiful that it's going to sit in your closet for that special occasion. We really want to we focus on kind of like casual, fun pieces that can stand in your wardrobe and live in your home forever. So our customer is kind of like the thrifty girl or guy or non-binary that just wants cool, fun stuff that they can't find anywhere else. And they just need help finding the brands and trusting them enough to press add to cart. But we have customers of all ages. We are, especially when we had the storefront, it was really interesting to see, even though I very much know who my customer is. I also hate that question because we have so many. I have so, especially in our neighborhood where we were in the East Village, like we had people in their 80s that were coming and going, "This stuff is crazy," and I'd be like,
That's
"Thank you," and they would buy all of it.
awesome.
So our customer is all over the place, but our customer really cares, and our customer really likes being educated. So our customer loves, they want the whole story. They want to know who you are, what you make, why you make it, and they want to know you intimately and personally. And we're here to tell that story and like shove it in their face. And they're like, "This is awesome. I love you. I love your product. And I want to buy it for the rest of my life and buy it for all my friends."
That feels like the experience buying art, where the buyers they really, really want to know who the artist is, their motivations, everything about them, because yeah, I mean, art is different and it's often just a statement one off, but it seems like the similar kind of um, buying curiosity.
Totally. Totally.
Mhm. So where all do you ship? Is it continental US? Like where all can you,
Yeah,
how
it's the
far
US.
can we get your products?
It's the US for now. We've made some international deliveries for those who are really excited. It just, the cost for right now is still a little prohibitive, but DM us. We can figure it out if you really want something. But yeah, for now we ship throughout the US. But while our online store is definitely growing and we're so excited about it, it's really, you gotta find us in New York. Like we've been doing these events, and like I said, I'm not sure if we're gonna continue doing the event model or if we're going to go back to having a permanent space to call home. But that's where you have to find us. Like that's the true experience that I think I do. I would like to say that I'd like to think I do a pretty good job of replicating it online, but I can't. Like there's just something about coming into a Butterfly Club event or a Butterfly Club store where it's not about buying something. You just are like, this is like, it's like a museum. It's an educational experience. We're like, what is this crazy item? And what is the story behind it? And then you end up talking to me for hours who can clearly talk your ear off about anything. And yeah, so you can find us online and you can DM us anytime. But when you're in New York, you have to find us because that's where the magic happens.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I can't wait. I'll be in New York soon. I'm gonna stop by and
Please.
also talk your ear about it. I'll come with another list of stuff to talk about.
I would love that.
So to close, we ask everybody, all of our guests, the same bucket of questions. So it's meant to be kind of rapid fire, but some of these it's tough to answer in just a sentence or two. So let's give it a go. What do your plans for the rest of 2023 look like?
I'm just taking care of myself and my baby business and seeing what happens. That's it.
Awesome. That's a good answer. And what do you think your biggest challenge for the rest of 2023 will be?
Saying no to a lot of opportunities that are coming my way in this really bizarre time that I've allotted myself. Not many businesses have the chance to kind of hit pause. And in that pause, um, I know I have a lot of things come on in the pipeline that I'm gonna have to say no to some really sparkly things that I really, really want to say yes to. But that I know are gonna be a hindrance on my business, even if it looks shiny and new. And I'm
Okay.
nervous for that, but I'm
Yeah.
excited for it and I trust myself.
Okay, so that's my next question. It might be the same answer. What are you most excited for in 2023?
I'm just excited for all of it to pay off. And I I already like so much of it already has, but something something's coming, some form of it again, whether it's in the shape of a new store or some partnerships or just so many things that I've been put really I took the time off, I did the hard work, and now I've set everything in motion. And so while I'm really scared to have to say no to some things, and I'm really scared to, um, I'm seeing challenges arise that are making my skin crawl, and I go, I really want that, but I need to say no. I'm so excited for all the things that I know I will say yes to at the same time. And I'm just trying to take care of myself and my business so that I make those right decisions this time around.
Wonderful. All right. This next block of questions are it's directly for the entrepreneurs in the audience. What do you feel like has been your biggest success to date?
So many of my biggest successes have also been my biggest failures, so it's hard to say, but
Well, let's
honest,
let's combine those because that's my next question.
I think all of the big leaps of faith, opening the store, taking on these insane partnerships. On the one hand, such successes, like, wow, how did I do that? I'm so proud of myself. Go me. But on the other hand, oh girl, what were we thinking? Huge failure. What no, 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 slow down. That's not how things go. Um, I mean, I think the failures are always unfortunately a little easier to pinpoint in that I can look back and go, oh no, that partnership was a disaster from the beginning. I should have never signed up for that. Um, but I can look back. I think these events have been really a success for me, whether, some are better financially than others, but in general, I can look back and just be really, really proud of them. And definitely a success in opening the store, but not a success in terms of how it looked by the end and how I felt at the end. But I can look back with a lot of pride and go, that was definitely a success in its moment. But I do believe that's always a good lesson that the success and the failures tend to overlap and tend to usually be the same thing. And you have to kind of, see the failure, go, oh, what did I do wrong? How do I do better? But also see the successes, which I have a very hard time doing for myself. And I have a very hard time like sitting down and being like, let's look at what you did really, really well. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. What's next? Well, you have to get to work. And I think some of my successes recently have been in taking the time to celebrate those a little bit better.
Nice. That's such a good thing to, yeah. There's a lot of self-criticism in this journey, and that's a
Oh
really
my
good
gosh.
thing
Yeah.
to, yeah, to remember. Okay. If you could get 85% of the world to adopt a single behavior, what would it be?
From a consumer perspective, I just want everyone to slow down. I just want everybody to slow down. And before buying anything as small as a t-shirt, as big as a house, I want people to slow down and really think, do I need this? Do I want this? If I want it, do I deserve it? Is this right? Why am I buying this? And then doing all the reading all the things. Who made it? How is it made? All the things that we should be doing. But just slow down. You don't need nearly as much as you think you do. You don't need nearly as much as quickly as you think you do. You don't need those packages to arrive the next day. Why don't you go to a store and spend some time? And while that obviously that same method of thinking can apply to non-consumers, I just wish everyone would slow down and and enjoy your life, enjoy all the things. That would be my thing, my lesson for entrepreneurs. Just slow down. It's not nearly as serious as you think it is. It's not nearly as important as you think it is. It'll all work out. Just slow down.
Awesome. And then plug, plug for the Butterfly Club. Where can we find you? A website, socials? Is there a place that before you decide whether or not you're going to go back to storefront, is there a place that we could regularly find you? I'm guessing today is the 6th of September. I'm guessing this one is going to air in about a month. So is there a place that at that time we could find you in real life?
It's who knows, in all honesty. I like by October, November, December, I will be somewhere. I don't know where, or at least not enough to announce, but Instagram is definitely our home base. We are on Instagram maybe more than we would like to admit. But yeah, our Instagram is just the butterflyclub.co. And you can always DM us any questions, entrepreneurs very much included. Our website, thebutterflyclub.co, has a brand application. So if you're interested in applying to join us, you can reach us there. But if you're not so much interested in joining our platform as and selling product, but you just want to, you know, talk my ear off or have any questions, if I can be of any support, you can DM us there anytime. Our website and contact page is on our website. Our TikTok will be back at that handle also, but for now is taking a rest. But yeah, butterflyclub.co is us.
Amazing. Maddie, thank you so much for stopping by and thank you for sharing your entrepreneurship journey with us. I know already that the audience benefited from this conversation. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
And everyone else, will see you on B1.